I call to order this meeting of the Lee County Board of Education on Tuesday, November 12th, 2024. At this time, I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that the Lee County Board of Education go into closed session under NCGS 143-318.11A1, A3, A6, and A8 to discuss confidential student information under NCGS 115C402 to prevent the premature disclosure of an honorary degree, scholarship prize, or similar award under NCGS 143-318.11A2 to discuss confidential personnel information under NCGS 115C319 and 115C321 and to consult with the board's attorney and maintain attorney-client privilege.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. We are in closed session. of Education is back in open session. This time, I would invite you to take a moment of silence with us. Thank you. Please stand for our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. This time we'll have our Lee County Schools vision statement and our policy 2120 code of ethics for school board members.
The vision statement, Lee County Schools in partnership with the community will provide challenging learning experiences for students in a safe and supportive environment. We are committed to academic excellence, technological innovations, social responsibility, and lifelong learning. Our success will be demonstrated by the achievement of our students and their positive participation in society.
Code of Ethics for School Board Members, Policy 2120. The board recognizes that collectively and individually, all members of the board must adhere to an accepted code of ethics in order to improve public education. Members of the Lee County Board of Education should avoid conflicts of interest and appearance of conflicts of interest as we handle the work of the board. Avoid the solicitation and/or acceptance of gifts in return for advice or assistance on matters concerning the operation of the business of the board. Avoid the misuse of public funds. Avoid misrepresentation or falsification of facts. And avoid making confidential information public. The board accepts the code of ethics established by the North Carolina School Boards Association.
Thank you. At this time, motion for the approval of our agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. It is approved. I'll entertain an approval of our minutes and our student transfer appeal hearing.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the minutes of the regular board meeting of October 8th, 2024, and the student transfer appeal hearing of November 7th, 2024.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It is approved. This time, we have our public comments. We have 5 individuals who have signed up. Just remind you to state your name and address when you come up, and there is a clock right in front of you, or should be, that you'll see you have 3 minutes once you begin to speak. First individual speaking is April Stone. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, my name is April Stone. My address is 727 Forestwood Park Road, Sanford, North Carolina. I am a Lee County Schools employee here at Lee Senior, and I am speaking on behalf of the classified staff of Lee County Schools. So I'm just going to start reading, and if I run out of time, somebody's going to pick it up.
Okay.
First and foremost, we'd like to thank you for allowing us this time to come and speak to you directly. We ask for your prompt attention to the matters that we are bringing to your attention this evening. We come to you today as a unified group of classified employees to formally ask for an increase in pay, as well as to bring some questions and concerns we have to your attention. Classified employees, as you know, have not been given a pay increase since the 22-23 school year, and that is when the state mandated that thus start paying $15 an hour. Most of us are what you call dual employed, as instructional assistants, as well as bus drivers, and our bus driver pay is $17.31. I also want to mention that we are also cafeteria workers, custodians, mechanics, all classified. As you know from the emails that we've already sent to each board member, as well as our county commissioners, some of the reasons we're requesting an increase. Some of those include reasons such as the amount of education requirements of the job description, which are included in the email. We can go to most fast food restaurants with no education and make the same wage that we're being paid. We would also like to know why we do not have an accessible pay scale to refer to. It is very disheartening to know that an employee that begins employment this week starts off at the same amount a veteran employee makes. This gives us no incentive to continue employment year after year. I have researched Chatham, Moore, Harnett, and Wake County school systems, and each of their websites make it easily accessible to see the pay scale or step scale as what to expect each year. We would not be here pleading for a raise if we had such a system. A TA with 2, 3, 4, 5+ years of experience should be making more than that of a newly hired employee. Most all NC school districts have pay scales, and we would like to ask that that be implemented as well. Next, our bus salary. We know that teachers have been driving buses and getting paid $35 per hour from COVID funds, according to Mr. Dossenbach. I also reached out to Board Member Patrick Kelly last September 2023, and he stated that they were getting paid more because it was what the state mandated. Once again, the information we're receiving is inconsistent. Mr. Dossenbach also said that he would not be continuing the higher pay rate for teachers after December. When the teachers are getting paid the same as us, I'm certain they will not continue driving. Thus, that's going to give us an even bigger shortage. For example, just here at Lee Senior, there are 5 teachers driving buses, so that would mean we're 5 bus drivers short. We all hold the same CDL license and have the same job requirements when operating a bus. It has felt like a slap in the face to many of us dedicated drivers. The funds could have easily increased our salary. Instead,
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to allow her to continue.
Second.
thank you.
Motion second. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carry on.
Okay, thank you. Those funds could have easily increased our salary. Instead, we're not offered any more, nor are we paid any extra for driving double routes. We believe that if we drive multiple routes each day, we should be compensated time and a half for our second job duties. Again, there's no pay scale for bus drivers to go by, and we would like to see that put in place for all of our classified employees. For example, an employee who has been driving for Lee County Schools for 20+ years makes the same exact amount as a newly licensed driver that got their license last week. So again, there is no incentive to make more and retain good drivers, knowing we can't make more for each year of service. When I was hired with Lee County Schools, I had over 20 years of CDL experience with a clean driving record. I asked when I was hired if my experience would be taken into consideration, and I was told no because my experience was not all working for Lee County Schools. We would also like to ask that our paychecks be more simplified and to the point. We've asked payroll many times how to figure out this TA/OT and bus/OT percentage, and no one can give us all the same correct information. We would like our checks to be separated or simplified. For example, 40 hours at $15 an hour equals $600, plain and simple. Not a formula that a payroll department uses that's not consistent each month for us to know what to expect our checks to actually be. We would like to be able to clearly see and know what we're making and how it is figured. Next, we would like to address some other concerns we have while we have your attention. We feel that the job description of dual employment is not being enforced. For instance, when I was hired, as many of my other fellow colleagues were told, if you don't drive a bus, then you don't have a job. Now, some instructional assistants who are hired can choose or are not made to drive. We as a whole completely understand that there are circumstances, medically and physically, for some. But just to say I can't or I don't want to without a valid reason seems to me that our job description is not accurate. In fact, most of us, like I said, were told if we didn't drive a bus, we didn't have a TA job. Bus drivers are also not given holiday or sick pay to use as well. We would also like the school district to begin participating in the state TA to teacher program. Many of us would like to have an opportunity to work towards a bachelor's degree and become teachers ourselves. We've seen advertisements that the job fair flyers for Lee County Schools that say, don't have your degree, come in, we'll have colleges on site to help with that. For those of us who's been with the school system for years, we get no help or even incentives to move up in our current positions. We would like to assume that we work for a school system who would like to help their own dedicated employees. Lee County Schools chooses not to participate in the TA to Teach program offered, although neighboring counties do, and they promote it on their website. We understand the challenges of the budget that you're facing, and we ask you to really take a look at the financial burden that all of us are facing, along with the frustration of our school district not making things open and accessible to us so we can all be on the same page and know exactly what we're making and what to look forward to in the years to come as dedicated Lee County school employees. We have reached out to county commissioners, and I have included in your packet a letter from the response we got from Kirk Smith. We feel that it is a blame game between you all, and we know that the funds are not being spent appropriately by our county commissioners. We will continue to ask and attend those meetings, but the fact of the matter comes down to asking our school board, along with Dr. Dossenbach, to use what we have and figure out a way to fit this in. We all love our jobs, and especially the students that we pour our hearts into every day. Of course, that's why we're here. In closing, I would like to formally ask for a pay increase for instructional assistants, classified employees, to be increased to $20 per hour. Our bus driver pay be increased to $25 an hour. We understand that this is a negotiation. We have based our numbers on surrounding counties and the cost of living expenses. We would also like to formally ask for a pay scale to be implemented as well. That alone would eliminate this type of thing from happening in the future. We respectfully request that this matter be handled in a timely manner and would like to ask to try to have a solution in place by the next board meeting, that is December 10th, 2024. Thank you again for allowing us this opportunity to speak out as a unified group of employees. We hope that this information brings to light how we can move forward together and make Lee County Schools the best district in the state to work for.
Thank you. Well done. Next, individual, David Nestor.
I feel bad I didn't bring a group with me.
They'll clap for you, too.
Okay.
They're teachers. They know to cheer each other on.
All right. David Nestor, 403 North Steele, downtown Sanford. Here for three quick things. Number one, I wanted to give thanks to this board. At the beginning of this year, I came before this board and asked you all to take a drive around the home office, off of Steele and the Hines Education Building. You guys did, and you came to the same conclusion a lot of us did. It needed to be cleaned up. Thank you. It looks great. It's a great asset now to our downtown, and moving forward, keep it maintained. But once again, thank you.
Thank you.
Secondly, thanks to, we've got a turnover coming up. Thanks to you that have served and are leaving this board. But my encouragement to each of you is continue to volunteer, continue to reach out to our schools. You've got some insight now that is very valuable that you can take into the schools. So I would just encourage you to do that. But once again, thank you as well. And thank you for those that are sticking around. Can't believe you do it, but thank you. And then third, I've had the opportunity to volunteer at Bragg Street Academy. It is good to my heart. But I saw something happen this last couple weeks, out of school suspension. Those kids that come into that school are there for a reason. It's their home environment, as we learned this weekend, may not be all that good. Out of school suspension, those teachers, those counselors at that school may be the most solid thing they've got. And if we find a reason to send them home for 10 days, dang, what are we going to get back? So I ask you, take a look at the suspension practices. I did talk to administrator up north. They actually have an in-school suspension program that they have found is working very well, and the kids still get support. They still get to continue their studies, and they get fed. So I would just ask, please take a look at that suspension program and see if we can't give those kids a little bit more. That's what I got. Thank you all.
Cameron Sharp is next.
Good evening,
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Superintendent, board members. I'm here tonight, not as a Board of Commissioner member, but as a Cameron Sharp, the citizen here in Lee County. First of all, I want to thank Patrick Kelly for his 8 years of service. Thank you for what you contributed to the board. Sandra, for your 8 years, and you are a great board member. And Jamie Ladati, for the time you have spent. I always sang your praises, that you had the school system's best interests at heart. So, but I wanted to get that out of the way. But I'm here tonight to address a matter that it's an important matter related to our responsibility in upholding professionalism, particularly on social media platforms. Each board has a distinct mission and responsibilities to the community. Each board has prior commitments it must honor. Resorting to name-calling because a board cannot fill your wish on demand, especially to a board member who tried to fulfill that wish 3 previous years when it was a viable option. It is essential that we maintain respect in our interactions. Name-calling is not going to make me, or likely anyone else, more inclined to work with you. It sets a poor example for our students who look to us as leaders in the community. Constructive dialogue will always be more effective than divisive language. So I want to elaborate more on the social platform. And I think I know the rules of not talking about anyone in particular, but I am going to say a board member was on his little Facebook page and called me a clown. And it offended me, but I'm a grown man, and I can deal with that. But there's just a few reminders. The 2 years that this board member has been on the Board of Education, Republicans have been in control. Republicans have been in control at the Board of Commissioners for 6 years. So I would say to that board member, you ain't got no juice, and you can't even deal with your own people. They ain't listening to you. So let's keep that in mind. I'm not your problem. The majorities need to get together and work it out. Like I said, I did not come for an apology, but just as a reminder, no, I just thought of something else. So this gentleman comes to our meeting 2 years ago when we were trying to push a 1% supplement increase for our teachers. And I'm talking, you're being rude. So he comes before the meeting and says, no, don't give it to him.
Time's up, sir.
You can't give me a motion to finish up?
I make a motion.
Well,
Motion to extend his time.
Motion and second. Discussion. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
thank you, board. So comes before our board and says he's trying to get elected. He says, don't give it to him. He comes back 2 or 3 months later, once elected, and says, oh, I want money now. So I'm not sure who's the clown here. And at the same time, in a curriculum and instruction meeting some time back, he whined and cried like a little 7th grade girl that her boyfriend broke up with her, and tried to have an ethics violation or misconduct against board member Kelly there. But in finishing, just a reminder, my father always told me the First Amendment is a great thing, freedom of speech. He also reminded me that you can say anything you want to somebody or anybody, but you better be able to back it up. November 2026 will be here before we know it, and things could be much different. Thank you, Board.
Alicia Miller.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. I've never been here before, but
That's okay.
I appreciate the opportunity to be up here. My name's Alicia Hillier. My handwriting was probably sloppy. Alicia Hillier, I work at Tramway Elementary, and I am at
I
1477.
apologize. I see
It's
that
fine,
now.
you're fine. 1477 Farm Life School Road in Carthage. And I was originally going to piggyback off of Miss April, but you did extend her time, which we do appreciate that, just to get that all out there at one time. But I didn't want to miss the opportunity to come up here and also speak more on the emotional part that being a TA or being any classified staff does bring, you know, to you personally and into your household. I cannot count how many times that not only myself, but my colleagues have had to walk kids to the nurse or up to the office that have had accidents or had to know what's going on at home and deal with those children, you know, that come into school and get dropped off with either screaming or yelling and didn't have a chance to eat breakfast. So you take them and now they're, you know, they're upset and they start their day that way, or kids that you know, see another bruise on and you're not able to open that up because that's not our place. And just the kids that you know when they leave what they're going home to. And so I really do resonate with what, you know, he was saying, that sometimes we're the best part of their day. But with that being said, I would just want to ask you guys, you know, how many kids a day, you know, do you personally deal with in that manner? How many kids a day do you deal with whose parents have passed away, who you know for a fact are coming from homes of addicts, whose diapers you have to change because they are not, you know, only physically dependent on you, but sometimes in some ways mentally dependent on you? How many children you've made sure ate, how many kids you've provided a snack for, not only from the cabinet, but out of your lunchbox. And then with saying that, how many times have you had to go home and look at your own child and say, no, we cannot do that this weekend? No, we will not do that this weekend. How many times have you chose between a vacation and paying your bills? I shouldn't have to take care of everyone else's kids and have nothing, anything to give my own. But telling me to find another job would be like someone asking me to put 18 children up for adoption, and the answer will always be no. If you told me today you would split my pay in half, I would still have to sit there and question whether I would walk out of that school. I love my children. I love my coworkers. Obviously, we love each other. I think that shows. I love my admin. I love everything about my job other than it takes so much away from my home. And so even though I was here originally to piggyback off of what not only, you know, we all put together, you know, collectively, but what Miss April put together so well, I just needed to get that out because it's not only about the money, it's about what's being taken away from my household. And there's not one person in here who works for the school, no matter what level that you are, that could say you've went home every day and were able to give your kids 100% when you've already given 200 to that school. So I just needed to get that out. So, thank you.
I'll try to get this right. Andrea Phipps.
Hello, my name is Andrea Phipps. I live at 2412 Woodburn Circle. I am not only a teacher at Deep River Elementary, but I am also a parent of a Deep River student. I have been at Deep River since 2013. You would be hard-pressed to find a better group of people to work with and work for. They're more like my family than my colleagues. Last week, it was brought to my attention that a meeting would be taking place on campus with a parent who has been banned from our school for communicating threats to teachers and our office staff. I have seen how these threats have affected the people that I work with and that I care for deeply. I sent an email to the county office asking that the location of this meeting be changed, or at least the time, after school, when kids are not there. Although I sent this email on Friday at 1:30, I did feel like this was ample time for the meeting location or time to be changed. I have to say that I'm extremely disappointed that ultimately I feel that my concerns were dismissed. I received an email back this morning at 8:20. The meeting was to take place at 9 o'clock. I received an email letting me know that my email had been passed on, but that was all that was said. I know that some of my other colleagues had voiced their concern over this parent being allowed back on campus, and they were led to believe that this situation was out of their hands, as well as the administration. I just want it to be known that people are watching. We have a school full of people that are seeing this happen, and we know that we could be next. We are afraid of finding ourselves in similar situations with very little to no support, and considering that we are already having trouble filling vacancies, I hope that Lee County would do a better job moving forward, taking care of their people. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for your comments and advocating. That concludes our public comments, of those that signed up. At this time, Chairman's report. Tonight is with mixed emotions because we're saying goodbye to 3 of our board members, and that is part of the political system.
Eric,
Yes.
I think Jamie feels the same way. I want to bypass this. The attention needs to be on them. I don't want to be recognized for 8 years. I did it for them out there. I'm not getting the plaque tonight because I couldn't finish what I started. So you can, I don't know if you feel the same way, but I'm not going to be recognized. There's no way. It's not about that plaque.
We appreciate that.
I'm proud of the service that I've done on this board, but the mantle has been passed. And all I can say is that there's a lot of work to be done. I have supported the students of this system, the faculty, the staff, the administration to the best of my ability. I've cast every vote with their well in mind, much to the disdain of the political elites in this area. But the reality is, I'm here for you. And David, where'd you go, David Nestor? Did he leave already? He told me not to stop volunteering. They couldn't get rid of me if they tried.
This is my time, so I'll give it to you.
Well, I was just going to say, I appreciate the sentiment. It's been an honor and a pleasure to serve with everybody on this board. If you know me by now, you know that I look at all types of data from all different angles, and every angle and every piece of data points to the number one vulnerability of this district being these classified staff, and that's why we made it our number one priority last year. I hope it's the number one priority again this year, and if it's not funded this year, I hope it's the number one priority next year. The other 2 things I'd love to see taken care of are, a little bit of extra support for our middle schools, and some tech education so these kids are safe online. So, again, thank you again for the sentiment. Truly, I really appreciate it. I've enjoyed all 3 years. I know people may think that sounds crazy that I actually enjoyed it, but I truly did. I loved working for all 9,200 students and for all the citizens of Lee County. So I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
We will move on then to our superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to switch up the order so that I can say this before, in case some folks leave. But I do want to let the board, those in attendance, those who spoke, those who watching online know that we have already began exploring compensation for classified staff, and we do understand that this is an issue that has to be addressed. We hear you. We stand with you, and this was my top priority and request in the budget last year to the board, and in turn was the board's number one priority to the county commissioners. And I can't speak for the board, but I can reassure you it will be my number one request to them again this year in the budget process for increased compensation for our employees. Just this past week, we finally received all state and federal funding. In fact, the board will approve that budget resolution tonight. Receiving that, we can start evaluating, and we have started evaluating what may be possible in our existing budget, even though we did not get funded with what we asked for, but what was within our existing budget that perhaps that we can do. We're actively assessing what options that we have with a plan that could be ready to review by the board as early as next month. I do invite each of you that came out tonight to continue engaging in this process as the budget process continues. We will be down that road in the next few months with budget work sessions and then talk with the county commissioners and continue to be advocates because we need you. I will move back up on my agenda, but each year we recognize the best of the best within our district with several recognitions. And while we've already recognized each of these individuals at their respective schools, we thought it was appropriate to recognize them publicly and congratulate them again on this well-deserved honor. I'm going to ask Ms. Stacy Eggers and Mr. Sal Cosimo to come forward and help with these recognitions.
So the first recognition tonight goes to the Lee County Schools Principal of the Year, Andrea Cummings. All right, the second one is for our Lee County Schools Assistant Principal of the Year, Miss Angela Colvin from Southern Lee High School. Our Lee County Schools Teacher of the Year is Miss Ashley Melpolder from Floyd Knight. Our Lee County Schools Beginning Teacher of the Year is Mr. Trayshawn Penny from Lee Early College. And then I'm not sure if she's still here, but our Exceptional Children Educator of Excellence Award goes to Miss Shawnee Wilby from BT Bullock Elementary. So thank you all for everything you do for our kids and our staff. I think it's been said more than once that, you know, we watch the leaders in our building, and you guys certainly are that. So we're just so appreciative of everything you do for Lee County Schools.
Mr. Chair, a point of personal privilege, if I may. Mr. Penny, I believe you are a recent graduate of the place for which you are now the beginning teacher of the year. I once knew a man who graduated in Lee County and went on to become a teacher in Lee County, and now he's sitting right there in the middle. Keep shooting high, my friend.
Trying to get you out of a job.
He's got a little bit of growing in to do, but we're very proud of Trayshawn at Lee Early College. He's done great things and continues to do.
Absolutely.
And Keisha didn't even pay me to say that.
No, congratulations to you all. You will represent us well.
Yes.
Last thing on my agenda, as you all know, the western part of our state has been through quite a bit since Hurricane Helene hit in late September. Many school districts in that part of the state remain closed while others have slowly begun to reopen. Our district has worked in partnership with 2 districts in western North Carolina to help in the efforts to rebuild, and I'm proud of the work that has taken place in both Buncombe and McDowell counties. And I would ask that Dr. Lisa Duffy come forward to share a bit about the work done in Buncombe County, followed by James Alverson and Patricia Coldren, who will speak to the work done in McDowell County.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the board. I have three folks that are coming up to join me. I do want to say that we are very fortunate here in Lee County to have a student services department full of individuals, much like the room that we have with us tonight, that pour themselves into the lives of others every single day. From our exceptional children's program, our school nurses, our school counselors, school social workers, and our mental health team. So it was no surprise when Dr. Dossenbach asked if we thought we would have some counselors or social workers that would be willing to, in just a matter of days, go to Buncombe County to support those students and that staff as they return to their schools following the devastating hurricane. So I had many notifications within seconds, especially from these folks that were more than willing to do that travel, or the ones that were unable to do so were offering to take on their schools or just offering words of encouragement and support. So we were able to send Sarah Allen, Concepcion Martinez, and Dennis Duke. Sarah and Concepcion serve as school social workers, and Dennis Duke serves on our mental health team. They arrived late Wednesday in October and ended up having an orientation that evening, and on Thursday and Friday, we're in schools supporting the students and the staff. So I am very grateful for their willingness to give and to serve others and to represent us well. And so I would like for them to share a little bit about their experience with you all. I thought they had worked this out already. We're going to have Sarah come on up.
Dennis likes to talk. She's only a social worker. Well, Dennis and I served at Clyde Irwin High School in Asheville, and they have a population very similar to Southern Lee High School, about 1,100, a little more kids. The staff there was phenomenal. We went in on that Thursday morning, and they welcomed us with open arms, took us on a tour of the school, talked to us about the population. We sat in on their staff meeting and their planning for the following day. And then we got up and went back in on Friday morning and welcomed the kids as they came into school. They had a delayed day, late start, because the roads around there it's a very rural part of the county, and so they were worried about their buses being out on the road when it's dark. And so, wonderful day, very heartwarming, spoke to students, spoke to staff, and just supported them in their endeavors, spoke to several classrooms. Dennis went into their EL classroom. They do not have an EL social worker in Buncombe County, so he went in and spent some time with those students who kind of felt like they didn't know what was going on. So it was very heartwarming, and we enjoyed it. Again, they were very welcoming. And then Concepcion worked at one of the feeder schools, Woodfin Elementary School, and their population, I believe, was 50% Hispanic. And they had one person that spoke Spanish on that entire campus.
Wow.
And so she got really dug in and making all the phone calls and meeting with the students and letting them tell her what they experienced and how they felt. And so it was a wonderful experience. We spent way more time together than we've ever spent before. But it was heartwarming. It was heartwarming to see the number of folks from across the state that came in to support Buncombe County.
Thank you.
And again, we just want to extend our gratitude and thankfulness to them and the others that were willing to go, if able. They represented us well and did truly represent, when we say be the good in the world, these folks right here represent that, absolutely. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We had the opportunity to connect with a school in McDowell County. You probably saw it on the news. It was called Old Fort Elementary. And Old Fort was
flooded. They had 4 to 5 feet of water. They lost everything in that building. The teachers are now teaching at another elementary school where they have all the grade levels in one room. So like all the fifth graders are in one room. That's crazy, but they're doing it. But we were able to connect with them, and in talking to their student services, I was sure they were going to ask for school supplies, but they actually said, no, we need coats. We need gloves. Our children lost everything. They have no winter, and winter's here. So we went about collecting materials at central office, also at several churches. James can talk about that. And then we were able to deliver it to them, and they were so grateful to have those to hand out to their families. And, kind of makes you realize what's really important. And being able to reach out, especially that week, it was really cold, unlike the last couple weeks. We were able to help clothe those children with warm clothes and also just give them some other necessities like toothpaste, toothbrushes, deodorant, all those things. And then James was amazing. He got some churches to pitch in as well so we could get it there very quickly, and he helped deliver it.
Patricia came to me and just said there was a huge need at Old Fort Elementary, and was thinking about what we could do as a district. And when she told me what the needs actually were, that it was kids that were cold, kids who were shivering in class, my heart immediately went, there's no reason that we can wait. There's not a reason we can wait. When we have a community like we have here in Sanford, North Carolina, that supports our schools, that cares for people the way that we do. And so I knew some resources were available at Jonesboro Heights Baptist Church. They have a tremendous amount of stuff that they already get ready for Operation Christmas Child boxes every year. It was already in stock. I called Mary Holly Oates, who used to work as the district nurse here in Lee County Schools. I said, can we raid your stash? And she said, yep, we can do it. And so we took all the stuff that they would give. We reached out to St. Luke United Methodist Church as well. They have a coat closet, and that was on a Thursday afternoon. Friday, they put out the call to their congregation that said, we need coats. And by Sunday, we had a truckload of coats, several truckloads of coats. We brought those all back to central office. Cool Springs also reached out as well. They were able to take up some donations. We were able to load a 14-foot trailer, about halfway up the trailer, completely full from front to back, and drive up to McDowell County within a week of hearing of the needs that were there. And it's because the great support that we have in this community. It's because of our great community faith partners and our churches and the different outreach groups that we have here in Sanford, because they're prepared to help and serve people, and they're willing to do what needs to be done to do what's best for kids. And so when we got to McDowell County, we dropped the deck on the trailer, and you should have seen the social worker's face. She was thrilled to see all the amount of stuff that was in there. But it only took about grabbing 2 or 3 armloads for her to not be able to help us anymore, because she started crying when she realized what all was in these boxes. These are people that they thought of everything, and they literally said that, you thought of everything. The towels, the lotion, the lip balm, little things for the cold, and that's who this community is. But it also goes to show you schools supporting schools is what's really going to raise the bar in the state of North Carolina. I firmly believe that. Public schools are the bedrock of each and every community, and the work that they're doing in McDowell County right now to help rebuild in it. Folks, I went to New Orleans after Katrina. This is the same thing. This has happened on a much wider, much broader scale than what happened in just New Orleans. And it happened all across the western part of our state. And whatever we can do to lend a hand, to lend an ear, to lend some encouragement and support is what we have to do for the students and the teachers and the faculty in the western part of our state. So I thank you for supporting us and giving us the opportunity to do it. Dr. Dawson-Bach, thank you for letting us put that together as a district, but also thank you to the community of Sanford and Lee County for pitching in and helping out, even when it's not our kids, but it's somebody's kids. And
They're all our kids.
So thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank Thank you all very much, and that concludes my report.
Next on our agenda is non-action items, financial report. Ms. Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate you guys letting me remote in tonight due to myself being sick. You have before you the August financial report, and I'm open to any questions that you may have.
Ms. Kelly, I had a question in reference to the expense report. A conference was canceled, and it's not reflecting that on the
Yes, ma'am, we are
expenses.
still awaiting the refunds from the hotels on that, so therefore we will reflect those once we receive those refunds.
Any other questions?
I guess just for the sake of the board, Kelly, is it right, we're still waiting on the state to hear about the ADM adjustment as far as compensation for growing ADM?
That is correct. I was going to update the board that there has been no movement on that. The latest that they had told us is they're still trying to get a PMR 1 report, with some districts going to the Infinite Campus versus the Power School. Those reports, the numbers are not matching, and they're wanting to get a consecutive number across the state.
Any other questions? Ms. Jones? All right. Then, is that all we have for Ms. Jones? Okay. All right. Thank you, Ms. Jones. Hope you get feeling better.
Thank you.
Board Attorney report.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'll be as brief as I can here. As y'all know, the board has asked that I provide a periodic update on bond forfeitures, understanding of what's going on, since that is something that seems to fall outside of what a school board attorney would usually do. Again, just by way of summary, by the North Carolina Constitution, the school system is the recipient of proceeds from various fines and forfeitures and penalties that are imposed by the law. The most prominent of those is forfeited bail bonds when somebody fails to appear for their court appearance after being bonded out from jail. There are others, including vehicle seizures and some other fees and fines that go into that, but that is the big one. In terms of what our services are related to this, we have paralegals as part of our firm who monitor the massive amount of information that comes into the various counties that we serve around bond forfeitures. And the reason that monitoring is so necessary is because the statute sets out that if a bail bondsman or a surety seeks relief from a forfeiture in order to not pay it, for one of the various reasons the statute allows, if we do not file an objection within 20 days, they get that relief, irrespective of whether they had a legal right to it. And so we have to be on top of that all the time. That is why you see a monthly bill, and you'll see that on your bills. There's always generally point ones and point twos. It's 5 minutes here, it's 7 minutes there, it's 10 minutes there, and you'll see the initials JDH. That's Jennifer Hanemichael in our office, who was a court clerk in Wake County for many years and now does this work for us. So that's what those long pages are on your legal invoices. And just by way, again, of update to the board in terms of what that produces for you, I went back 8 months, back to March 1st, to provide this report. I think that was about the time that I did the last one of these. Your total legal expenses, which reflects Ms. Hanemichael's time and mine with respect to showing up to court to contest these or to consult with Ms. Hanemichael on the issues to sign off on our filings, totals for those 8 months is $7,926. The total fines and forfeitures collected by the district over the last 8 months, and Ms. Jones was kind enough to provide me all the records of monies you have received. That number is $86,174.49. I will note, for the way of context, that's a little bit higher than usual. That's a little bit more than $10,500 a month. We typically see about $7,000 to $8,000 a month for y'all, but because the fines and forfeitures are so varied, when you have one bond that's $20,000, it gets forfeited in a single month, that month is obviously going to have a much bigger number. We also have what are called remissions, which is for a period of 3 years after paying the bond. under certain legal circumstances, the surety can come back and say, hey, we went out on our own and we found the person that's missing, and we brought him in at our own expense, we should get some of that money back. And the court can order that, so some of that money sometimes moves back even 6 months, 12 months later. But as a general matter, anywhere from a 6-to-1 to 10-to-1 ratio in terms of the expenses that you're paying us to monitor and enforce this versus what comes in to the school district. And I was in court this afternoon, and we were able to preserve about a little over $2,000 worth of forfeitures that relief was sought, and we were able to protect that for y'all. I've got a court appearance on Monday for about $35,000 worth of bonds that may or may not be collected. You know, I don't want to make any promises there. That's one that I'll leave to the court for now. But that's just a quick sense overview of what we're doing with that service. We continue to be careful with that because the school district needs every dollar that it can get, and you're legally entitled to that money, and we do our best to protect it for you.
Thank you, Mr. Rawson. Did anyone have any questions from Mr. Rawson? Okay. All right. We'll move then to our committee reports, and first up is curriculum and instruction. Ms. Womack.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And if you don't mind, I would like to take a moment, as we've done with these personal privileges. I would like to explain, under no circumstances was I trying to cut off a county commissioner from speaking. It was in direct violation of our school policy 2310. For the remainder of you that was here and gave your public comments, it was perfect, it was beautiful, and I completely agree, more than I would currently like to admit, with particularly Ms. Hillard. I'm that child. I'm one of those children that got on that bus when it changed my life. And so now you see where I am today. My very first Bronze Star went to my English teacher. I don't want you to ever quit. I don't want you to ever give up. And don't ever forget, when they step foot on that bus, it's a total different world. That's the only sanity that they have. And quite frankly, I think we'd all go insane if y'all were to leave us. Dr. Dawsonbach, I know, is working on that. And I don't think December is soon enough. I'm not certain that the budget is soon enough. I just know that we heard you. I'm certain this entire board has heard you, and I appreciate that you being here. Now back to the Curriculum and Instruction Committee. We met on the 23rd of October, and we also are going to have our low-performing schools that will be under our new items. But our next meeting is on December the 4th at 3:30 in the Assembly Room. And if you don't mind, I'll go ahead and do discipline as well. Discipline, we had an outstanding meeting. It's amazing how many people in our community, teachers, staff, people are really concerned and wanting to work together on the discipline. We know it's difficult. Sometimes you probably feel like you're on a battleground. So I'm very grateful that Dr. Dawsonbach helped take that initiative and make that happen. And if there's any of you that ever want to volunteer or come out to that discipline committee, we understand that you're on the front lines. When they get on that bus, that's what you call the front lines, not the armchair leaders. So our next meeting for the discipline committee is November the 13th, and that's at 3:30 at the Assembly Room as well. And again, the low performance will be on our new items. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Womack. Facilities and Technology, Mr. Ladade.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We met on Tuesday, October 29th. I want to thank Mr. Rummel for running the meeting. It allowed me to join remotely while I was volunteer coaching the East and West Lee Middle School golf teams. I was on the golf course. It was not a vacation. If you've ever been around middle school golfers, swinging weapons that they sometimes call golf clubs. So, but I appreciate you running the meeting for that. We had several items that we covered. I'll go through the consent agenda items first. The F&T committee talked about the express contract services for contracted child nutrition and custodians. The contract is written not to exceed $100,000. We passed that to finance. The committee passed that to finance with the recommendation that it be placed on the consent agenda. East Lee, West Lee, Bragg Street, Broadway, Southern Lee, VCT replacements. This is coming from capital outlay in the amount of $131,401. This was the lowest bid. The committee approved that bid and passed to finance with the recommendation that it be placed on the consent agenda. The J. Glenn Edwards cooling tower bid This sources lottery funds, $361,550. That was the lowest bid, and we approved that bid and passed to finance with the recommendation that it be placed on the consent agenda. We discussed some new business items, which I'll save for the new business section of the meeting. And then we had a couple of FYI items. We talked about a lottery spin-down update that worked in the J.R. Ingram roof, which I think we need to replace sooner rather than later. We discussed that at our last meeting. So that's accommodated now in the 24-25 timeline. We talked about redistricting. I think there'll be a special called meeting December 5th to talk about that further as far as the timeline. And the committee did ask leadership to go ahead and draft some transfer criteria specific to a redistricting effort, because I'm sure there'll be some inevitable transfer requests as we talk about redistricting. And then the committee reviewed Policy 9200 regarding care and maintenance of the facilities. This came out of the issue that Mr. Gaster brought with Greenwood Gymnasium. Committee reviewed that policy and had no recommended changes, but the committee did ask leadership to encourage staff to continue to report issues that they see, even if those issues have been previously reported to other administration or even to this administration. That does not mean that we will be able to fix everything immediately, so that needs to be stated clearly, but we certainly want to know about any issues that exist on our campuses. So again, I mentioned there'll be a special called F&T meeting December 5th, 4:30 in the Hines Education Building, and the next regular F&T meeting will be January 18th at 4:30 in the Hines Education Building, and I believe that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Ladate. Finance, Mr. Rummel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Finance met on October the 29th. We talked through several things, the first being the express service contract that Mr. Ladate mentioned. So this is a service contract to help cover labor vacancies in child nutrition and custodial services. This contract is needed due to long unfilled vacancies in these departments and highlights the push for the county to fund our pay study recommendations. That's in my notes. The committee will be exploring options to try and help fill those vacancies going forward, as we've heard here tonight. This specific contract is not to exceed $100,000 and was unanimously approved in committee and is listed on tonight's consent agenda. We talked through the lottery funding update, which Jamie also touched on. That is in your FYI packet for tonight, but just wanted to mention a couple things there. So this is the updated lottery spend down plan that was mentioned in last month's meeting. Due to the county pushing some critical maintenance priorities that were on our capital request, the committee thought it would be a good idea to maintain a lottery fund balance that's large enough to cover a major emergency. So think about roof replacements or a chiller or something to that effect. So this updated plan maintains a balance of around $1 million, which would be enough to cover one of those major emergency repairs in the case that it would be needed. The committee also discussed the capital outlay. So this is a running list of projects that is listed in our annual capital request to the county, and it tracks the estimated and actual cost of the jobs that we requested and received funding for. So that's also located in the FYI packet for review, but please keep in mind that is a living document. So as projects on that list are completed, that document continues to be updated, but you've got that in FYI tonight to review at your leisure. Let's see, the next one I had was the CIP. That is listed under new business tonight, so we'll talk about that more later. We reviewed the 2024-25 budget resolution. So this basically appropriates the local, state, and federal funds to the appropriate accounts for the whole fiscal year. So as noted in that finance report, the state ADM adjustment is still pending state action. So the committee unanimously approved that budget resolution, and it's on tonight's consent agenda. Last thing I had was the VCT and cooling tower bids, which Mr. Ladati touched on again. The Finance Committee did unanimously recommend approval for both, and those are on tonight's consent agenda as well. The next scheduled Finance Committee meeting is Thursday, January 30th at 4:30 p.m. in the Hines Building.
Thank you, Mr. Rummel. Policy, Mr. Gaster.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
This is your first reading of the policies brought before you tonight. Policy 3220, technology in the classroom, in the educational program. Policy 4140, foreign exchange students. The combined policies of 3420, student promotion and accountability. Updated the policies of 4700, student records, 3450 of class rankings, and then the regulations to go along with policies, policy 3220. And all of that is brought before y'all for the first reading only. And with that being said, our next meeting will be this Wednesday, November 14th at 5 p.m. in the Hines Education Building. And with that being said, I would like to take a point of privilege to say something. Sure. Thank you. I've been waiting a long time for this room to fill up with people, and I'm thank the Lord that finally it got full. And it got full with a purpose.
Yeah.
And I go along with each and every board member sitting up here tonight. We understand completely, and that's why we fought so hard as a board to try to push the issue because of the financial situation and what you can go work at a fast food restaurant for without anything. So believe me when I say thank you for taking the time to come out in strength and in numbers and be advocates for each other and continue to do that. Don't let tonight stop you. Keep fighting. That's the only way we can make change, is to keep fighting. Thank you again.
Thank you, Mr. Gaster. I will say, and I've mentioned this before, but we hear us talk about a lot of different things, and we're referring to things. Always know that all of this information is on the website. We have a great new website, and you can see everything that is being talked about. We want you to understand, and we want to be transparent with everything that we're doing, and so that is there. And I want to say thank you to our board members for the work they do on the committees. It's not just these meetings. They spend a lot of time in these committee meetings, and that's where the work is really done for the board. And those are open meetings. You're always welcome to come and be a part of those meetings, sit in on those meetings. We invite you to come. And I just like to keep mentioning that so folks are aware, and I hope you'll take advantage of that. Next on our agenda is the approval of our consent agenda.
Mr. Chair, if I may,
Yes.
before we move on from policy, I just wanted to take a minute and recognize Mr. Gaster and Ms. Bowen and Dr. Mazzola for allowing me to contribute to Policy 3220, the generative AI policy. Enjoyed working on that, and I appreciate the collaboration. I know that didn't have to happen, so I just wanted to say thank you publicly to both of you. Thank you.
Okay, approval of consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. It is approved. We have no unfinished business or new business. Board policy, second reading. Mr. Gaster.
Okay, so these are the following policies that are come up for second reading. Was 3610, the counseling program, 8340 insurance, 1760-7280 was prohibition against retaliation. Policy 8510, school finance officer, policy 1310-4002, parental involvement, and the combined policies of 4240-7312 and 7130. And I would like to make a motion that the board approve the second reading of those policies.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. It is approved. Takes us on to our low-performing school improvement plans. Ms. Womack.
They have a spokesperson that's coming up.
Okay.
These are also online
Yes.
as well, and those of y'all who wonder how much work they actually do, they actually come out in big folders like this, and go through all the process. But if you could give us a shortened version, since it's online, that would be nice.
Yes, ma'am, I will. Thank you. Good evening. Tonight, I would just like to give you a brief overview of our low-performing school improvement plans. As mentioned, you do have the full comprehensive plans in your packet, but tonight I will reference more from the overview charts from our 4 schools. The principals at Broadway, W.B. Wicker, Eastleigh, and Westley did present these plans to our Curriculum and Instruction Committee in October. We did make them available to the public, and we did solicit stakeholder feedback as well. So here we are tonight presenting to you a brief overview, and as said, all this is also available online in the full packet. So we'll start with Broadway Elementary. Broadway has some main goals of focus as we move forward into this year. They would like to meet or exceed growth in reading and math. They would like to be at the positive side of growth to meet and exceed. And they'd also like to increase the overall proficiency. They would like to increase their proficiency from about an increase of about 12%. So they hope to do that by focusing on PLCs, professional learning communities where the teachers can collaborate, share data, dive into data, analyze the data. They also are going to focus on professional development. We have new science standards from the state this year, so they're diving into those. Of course, continuing the professional development for the science of reading. And they've also planned some 3 full days of instructional planning days, where the teachers can spend some time doing some long-range planning. They also, their next goal, they want to increase the teacher retention and decrease their teacher turnover, if you will. They have maintained over this past year a good rate of retention at 90%, but they'd like to continue to increase that to 92%. They're going to support that goal through some Sunshine Committee activities, through a supportive school culture. They're recognizing their certified and classified staff members each month, celebrating those staff members. And they're also focusing on, again, those PLCs and that professional development to invest in their people. So they're hoping that investment will continue to retain their staff. The last goal at Broadway is they want to increase their parent and family involvement. They're looking to hold 10 events and have about an 85% participation in Infinite Campus Parent Portal and through share rooms where we communicate with our parents and families. So they're going to work to achieve that goal by hosting a variety of nights, STEM night, curriculum nights, EOG prep sessions. They're hoping to be able to support the parents with helping their children at home and helping their children understand their academic progress. Of course, they're going to make sure the website is updated, using our new platform, Infinite Campus, to communicate, using our Thrill Share rooms also as a way to communicate as well. So Broadway is focusing on increasing that achievement, making sure to retain those highly qualified teachers, and increasing parent and family involvement. And they are headed in the right direction with that. Next up, we have W.B. Wicker. W.B. Wicker Elementary is also wanting to increase their student achievement. Their target is a 50% proficiency rate there, and they're close. They're right there at it. So they're working to meet that goal. They're going to do that through observation walkthroughs, analyzing that walkthrough data from the administration team. Again, they're planning in those PLCs, that collaborative time to build capacity amongst the teachers, investing in those teachers. They're making sure to provide an intervention time for remediation through the multi-tiered system of support. They're providing that professional development as well, targeted areas for what their teachers need. And they're also utilizing data walls. So they want to make sure that they're analyzing their students' data and monitoring that data consistently and regularly throughout the year. Their next goal, they're hoping to increase, again, that teacher retention. They have a goal to keep increasing that and get that above 90%. They're going to do that by offering a new staff induction program. Any new staff to W.B. Wicker, whether they're an experienced staff member at another school, they want to provide a little mini induction program to support them there. They want to create and utilize a culture committee, focusing on the culture of that building to make sure it's supportive of all staff. WB Wicker also has a plan to recognize their classified and certified employees each month to celebrate them. Again, professional development, they want to increase the opportunities for that and make sure it is differentiated for their staff. And then lastly, their goal, their action step for this goal is to enhance their beginning teacher program support, making sure that they're supporting those BTs. The last goal for WB Wicker is to increase family and community engagement by 10%. So they are starting a parent newsletter to send home monthly to make sure parents are informed. We know communication is kind of the first step to that engagement. They're offering workshops, parent nights, parent events, a variety of events to make sure that parents have a way to engage in the school. Again, using the online platforms and social medias to communicate, making sure that they're using the Infinite Campus parent portal piece, as well as Thrill Share rooms to communicate with parents. So they are hoping to increase their communication, which will increase their engagement. Now, as we transition to our middle schools, we'll start with Eastleigh Middle School. Eastleigh's first goal is they're wanting to increase their achievement overall as well, and they want to increase their achievement in each subject area, specifically ELA, math, and science. So they're going to look to increase that achievement by focusing on PLCs. You're hearing the same reoccurring themes. We know these tried and true action steps that are going to keep moving towards improvement. They're also going to focus on data-driven small groups, so analyzing that data to form those small groups to deliver that targeted intervention support and instruction. They're also focusing on using the Lee County Schools pacing guides and curriculums. We've invested a lot into these curriculums and then invested a lot in our capacity to lay out these pacing guides. And they are all now accessible K-12, and they're really going to push those for their staff. They're also analyzing common formative assessments. So in middle school, we're providing those common formative assessments, those little temperature checks, and they're going to analyze that data more regularly to make sure they're intervening in a timely fashion. Another goal for Eastleigh Middle is teacher turnover. They want to decrease that by 14%. So they're really focusing on utilizing their school leadership team, their school improvement team, to make decisions, to have some joint decision-making, some shared decision-making in that. And they want to utilize that team to address areas of concern and kind of make sure to have the buy-in with the teachers helping with those decisions. They're going to implement staff surveys, so they have a regular temperature check on the staff, utilizing that data to make sure that the culture is supportive and positive to retain those teachers. They're also differentiated professional development. Again, sometimes what this teacher needs is much different from what that teacher needs. So they want to target those specific needs to make sure that they're the most beneficial use of time for each teacher. And then lastly, their goal, they're hoping to increase parent and community engagement by 25%. So they have started few new systems, Sunday night calls with Miss Bancroft. So the Sunday night calls to kind of give the weekly overview. A few of you shake your head as parents. You are getting those Sunday night calls to give the weekly info and update. Again, we know being informed and communication is the first step to being engaged and being involved. And they're offering monthly newsletters by grade levels. This is more informing about the curriculum and the content and the instruction versus just what's coming up in the weekly info. Increasing social media posts, making sure that the website is update and current and accessible. Re-engaging the PTO. They are really focused on PTO of just maybe one parent or two parents to really kind of re-engage and try to build a full board and get them active and involved as well. And then, of course, increasing their parent nights and school events. They have a target goal of 6 events for the year to make sure that parents and community members are involved. And then lastly, we have Wesley. Wesley has got quite a few goals that they are wanting to focus on as well. First up, Wesley wants to make sure that they're providing academic and behavioral support through the MTSS system. And the hope is when we provide that support, what we know is discipline will go down, therefore time out of the classroom will go down. So they're hoping to increase their instructional time and decrease that loss of instructional time by decreasing those OSS and ISS numbers, and they feel with the right support in place that will be the result. So the support, they're making sure they have intervention time and making sure that the schedule is set where the intervention time is not taking from core. Again, maximizing that instructional time. They also have a schedule built in for check-in systems, a check-in, check-out system with each student to make sure students have a system of support there. Again, when that system of support's in place, what we know is the behaviors will decrease and the instructional time will increase. The next goal at West, they're hoping to increase proficiency. They want to move that proficiency needle to reach that 40% mark overall. And again, intervention time. They're going to target that intervention time, and that intervention is going to be a whole team approach. It won't be one teacher with 20 kids. The whole team is going to make sure that they're doing wraparound services for those children. They're also having monthly review of MTSS student plans, so monthly kid talks to look at those students and make sure they're closing those gaps. They've re-rostered the class list, and they're analyzing the past test history and helping to use that past history of testing to drive the instruction of what they're doing now. And analyzing those EVOS, those growth scores, looking at knowing the mark and the target of where they want these children and keeping those expectations high. And then weekly small dose, mini PD, if you will, just little snapshot weekly PD. And they feel that consistent snapshot will help to grow and build capacity. The next goal Wesley wants to focus on is recruiting and retaining those highly qualified teachers. They want to decrease their turnover rate by about 20%. And then also part of that goal is wanting to decrease the staff absences as well, knowing again that consistent teacher in the classroom, consistent every day, we know the impact that will have on the students. So they're hoping to support the staff, again, PD plans, and their PD plan is going to include some resilience and trauma-informed teaching practices. They are prioritizing, the academic coach is prioritizing that focused professional development and targeted for specific teachers and their needs. And it's going to be focused on practical skills for teaching and learning. And they're also prioritizing that inviting school building, prioritizing that culture and that environment of positive and inviting to make sure that they know that kind of environment's what's going to retain those teachers. And they're just working on building capacity and equipping those teachers with the skills they have to retain in the profession. Wesley also wants to meet growth. They want to be at that positive green growth mark. And again, they're going to do that through direct instruction. They're going to focus on direct instruction on the behavior matrix, because we know that's where also an area of improvement that's needed, as mentioned in a prior goal. But they're also looking at that direct instruction on the standards, the teaching standards, to make sure they're reviewing the data as mentioned. They are looking at a schedule, again, the schedule to not interrupt core instruction time, and they've also utilized Title I funds to hire some reduced class size teachers. Again, making sure they're providing that targeted instruction. And then the last goal that Wesley has there is to make sure they're increasing the number of parents accessing the school engagement tools, staying up to date on school initiatives and school information and school happenings. So they're hoping to increase that by 30%. They're increasing their opportunities for parent engagement. So a parent night, athletics, STEM night, science fairs, award presentations, celebrations. So just offering that wide variety to try to reach all the different parents and family members. They are also surveying parents 3 times a year, again, to have that little check and temperature check to see where they're at and where they can improve to keep the parents involved and informed. They are hosting additional parent-teacher conferences for students who are below the expected levels. So they have set teacher conferences, and then these will be additional for those students who are needing more targeted intervention and support to meet their expectation levels. And they're also hosting events where they can support parents. So it's not just, hey, parents, get on, read, be informed. Hey, parents, come here. We will help you get on. We will help you connect. We will help you and show you how to plug in so you can be informed. So Wesley has quite a few goals and action steps there. So at this time, I will open it up to any questions you have regarding the low-performing school improvement plans.
I had a few. if I might. So I guess I've got four things, well, maybe five. The first one is, I guess, just overall, I really appreciate the focus on family engagement here, because I do think that's a very important step, and I think the board here has talked about accountability a lot, and getting some focus on family engagement accountability, I think, is going to help us. But the few things I had that are more questions, I guess, so being realistic, especially with the elementary schools, knowing that we got a lot of new curriculum materials this year, along with like Infinite Campus and all the other things, is it realistic to expect to see that growth come this year, or would a dip due to all those new things coming, is that a realistic expectation as we look forward to scores that we would get next year?
I do think it's realistic. When we're talking about growth, we want that child to make 1 year's worth of school growth. And we can do that. We can provide that. Our elementary schools, there has been some changes. There's been some learning curves with that. But we think with the right support to build that capacity in those teachers, they can certainly grow those students to 1 year of growth. And specifically, like Broadway, they are right there. They are right there at that growth mark. So we have no doubt. And it was really focused on one subject area for Broadway. So we've really targeted support there. We've given them some resources in that science, and we're confident that they're going to meet the mark to make that growth.
Great, okay. The next one that I had, and I guess for me this was a common theme looking through just some of the school data, and I won't pull out individual pieces, but the question that I wrote down is, do we need to start talking about how or when to hold students back? So with the low-performing school data, a lot of these have nearly 100% promotion rates, and I know there are laws that dictate how often that can happen, but if we know we're passing students to the next grade up when, I guess, the school or maybe the grade as a whole is already in that low-performing rate where students aren't showing proficiency, that just seems like we're setting ourselves up for failure next year. So I don't know. That doesn't need to be fully answered right now, but is that something that needs to be on the radar at the board level to discuss at all?
That's something certainly we can discuss and come back to the board with. We can bring some research on that. We can bring the policy and updated laws on that and have that discussion, and at least transparently share with you what we have.
Sure, okay. I guess two more. Another common theme I saw was kind of lower attendance rates. And again, I didn't write down the specific numbers, but I guess going back to accountability, we've talked about that, I guess internally, but there's also an accountability piece that families have to get these kids to us if we're going to teach them. So can the board help to address truancy issues? And I know I've heard colleagues in other counties that have kind of pushed that on the county side to help with truancy issues. Is that something that you think would, I guess, be a board action to assist with?
I do believe our student services department, working with our social workers, is trying to use that avenue when possible. It doesn't happen overnight. It is a process for truancy, but our social workers stay on top of that. We do kind of take steps with that, so we'll start with like an attendance contract, try to kind of go through the continuum, if you will, before we land right into truancy court. But certainly, we've tried the interventions at that. We try to implement a tiered system of support, kind of a step one, parent conference. Let's just get you in the door and say, hey, here's where absences are. Let's just talk about that. If that's 5 days, that's 40 hours of instructional time lost. Just trying to teach and inform. And then we can look at next step levels with attendance contracts and then truancy. But I do think we're doing all with when we can, and we agree. We do agree that attendance is an area of concern that we want to increase and we want to improve across the board.
And hopefully the family engagement would help with that by itself. But
it will.
If it gets to that point, I think that's something that the board would certainly be interested in, pushing on our end if needed. And then the last one I had, and I think it was in Wesley's, one of their actions that just reminded me about this. I think last year, I'll try and go look it up, but I think there was somebody had an action to create a YouTube, basically like a YouTube page to put short videos to help teachers and parents and basically take best practices for teaching. And something in the Wesley, one of the actions reminded me of that. I didn't know if that was something that we could continue to look into, both to help, staff in the school and parents at home if there are things that their kids are struggling with, to give them a 5-minute video on how to teach whatever that specific thing is.
Yes, so I think we've done a really good job of that, specifically at our middle schools for supporting parents with teaching the students, kind of that first layer of that. On the websites for the middle school, at least Wesley specifically, and then I do know the other ones as well. I think it's kind of worded as Success at Home, kind of that hub on their website. And what they have there are little short video clips by subject. Math, ELA, science, social studies by the core subject, and literally then it takes math, integers, fractions, multiplying, dividing, and there's little video clips of how to do those. So we've kind of made that first step. To your point on the second step, building a little video bank, if you will, for teachers. Like, this is the best way to teach integers, not just a video to support parents. I think what you're referencing, if I remember correctly, I think Greenwood mentioned that last year, trying to create like a little bank of that. So that is certainly I can follow up on, and we can try to get that bank rolling, if you will, because I do think that would be helpful.
Sure. Thank you. That's all I had.
There's no further questions.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I guess I got not really a question, but kind of a statement. These are the experts that put all this together, and you work hard and everything about that. I wrote down the whole team, and you were talking about the whole team of everybody working together. And with everything that's going on tonight, it got me thinking, that bus driver that first meets them at the bus door that morning to the person that drops them off. I think this is why it's important that they're all here, and why we keep asking for raises for all of them, is because if the whole team ain't on there together, if the whole team ain't happy, or the whole team ain't in it together, these scores ain't going to move. And it takes the whole team, and I just keep writing down the whole team, because it ain't just the parents and everybody engaged, it's everybody. What we can do as a board is not only just approve this and let the experts do what they're supposed to do and help our children, but also continue to press forward so that the whole team has everything they need. So,
That includes pay.
You may call me a crappy board member sometimes, and people say nasty things about me, but where it boils down to is we as board members are ones that listen and care and understand that we're part of the team, and this rests on our shoulders as well, and we need to keep pressing on. So, thank you.
So, Mr. Chair, I move that the Lee County Board of Education approve the low-performing school improvement plans for Broadway Elementary School, W.B. Wicker Elementary School, East Lee Middle School, and West Lee Middle School.
We have a motion.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion?
I had two quick things,
Yes.
if I could. It may be for Dr. Kelly or maybe for the Dr. Dawsonbach, but the Title I funding, do we get that all up front at the beginning of the year, or is that a monthly disbursement? Or I saw where, some of these have laid out plans for Title I funding, and so I'm wondering if we have all of those funds already in our accounts, or if they're distributed monthly or that type of thing.
All of those funds do come in. That's grant-based federal funding. They all do come in at the same time.
Okay, and we already have that at the beginning of the year, or?
Not necessarily the very beginning of the year, but we do have those funds at this time.
Okay. And then the teacher turnover rate, particularly for the middle schools, is that from November 23 to November 24, or is that school year, or how is that?
School year.
Is school year? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll say, just kind of piggyback on off of what I said earlier, and what Mr. Kelly had said, is that, if we can provide a little bit more resources to the middle schools as far as, some of the data analysis or, those types of things, maybe a little bit of extra resources to get more parental involvement, that type of thing, I think that would be money well spent for the district. And I believe that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. It is approved. Next up, Mr. Ladades, Lee County High School Stadium Visitor Side Demolition Bid.
Computer logged me out. I apologize for that.
Technology.
Yeah, so we discussed this is on the Paul Gay Stadium visitor side, which of course needs to be demolished. Just to remind everyone, we did a rebar test on the visitor side, and it was braided wire, so it's not something that we could repair like we did the home side, where we had structural integrity. So we discussed that in our F&T committee. We got some informal estimates, I would say, as far as some of our options, and we did, as a committee, give Dr. Dawson-Bach the leeway to get some bids for demolition so that we could attempt to sort of keep this process going, keep the project on track, or get it completed as quick as possible. So I believe the bids that you have in your packets are bids that came in after F&T, and so that's why they're on new business tonight. The bid, I believe, that would be recommended is the lowest bid, which is Sanford Contractors, in the amount of $148,028. I think we would, Dr. Dawson-Bach, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we would go out to bid for a concrete pad and some metal bleachers to come in and replace the current concrete bleachers that are there at the moment.
So, and just so the board knows that we would have to do informal bidding for a contract pad once the demolition is complete. The bleachers, there is actually a company on the TIPS program, which is the state-approved program that would not require you to go out for bidding because they've already been approved by the state. So that would allow that process to move a little quicker. But this would likely not be, the demo would likely be complete before graduation. We could likely get a concrete pad before graduation. We would not get bleachers put back prior to graduation. But if it was demoed and we had a concrete pad, we can bring in bleachers similar to what we did last year.
And I think maybe just one thing that I had written down to add was to repair that existing structure was somewhere in the ballpark of like $650K, and that was approximately a 5 to 10 year lifespan, where a rebuild, we'd be talking 20 to 30 years worth, obviously if we keep it up the way we're supposed to, for about the same price. So that's kind of what led us here to, we're going to demolish this, we're not going to fix it, because we can build something new for about the same cost. So the demolition first lets us kind of go forward with the other bids, whether it's steel structure, concrete structure, whatever it ends up being, but the demolition has to happen.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the contract for the demolition of the visitor side, Lee County High School.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I hate to vote to turn down somewhere I sat so many years. Go ahead, Eric.
All right. All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. It is approved. Next up, our capital improvement plan, Mr. Ladate and Mr. Rummel.
So you guys, the board has the capital improvement plan in their packets. It's very similar to last year. I think one notable appearance is a renovation of Warren Williams in 2027. We have this in our packets this month because I believe the county commissioners have requested this in December of this year. I believe in previous years we provided this information in March timeframe. So that's why it's in front of us tonight. You will see that the order has Southern Lee High School auditorium first, bus garage second. That's the same order that we provided last year, and the county commissioners flipped that, I believe, after we had provided. And I'll open it up for questions. Or, sorry, I'll give it to Mr. Rummel if he has anything to add.
No, I think you covered it well, Jamie. The only thing, maybe also you'll see a number 0 on that list for the land purchase for multi-site. We thought it would be good to leave that there in case that work's not completed this year. We don't want that to fall off. So there has been capital allocated for that, but as we go through that process, if it's not completed before the beginning of the next fiscal year, we just don't want that to fall. So
That's a placeholder.
that's right.
Okay, we do not have a motion.
I move that the Lee County Board of Education approve the capital improvement plan, CIP, for fiscal year 2026 to 2030.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I have thoughts, but I'll keep them to myself.
Okay, all right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. It is approved. Which takes us to the facility condition assessment. Mr. Ladate.
So this is also in our packets this evening. I believe Dr. Dossenbach discussed this at our last board meeting, but this is a bid just to get a third-party review of our facilities and let us know what issues we may have, just an external set of eyes to, I guess, provide an inventory of issues, and then we can determine how to address those issues as a board, or you can determine how to address those issues as a board.
Y'all can figure it out.
Couple questions in reference to this assessment. First of all, it's a great idea, but have we correlated any of this that when they were coming in and looking at the performance audit, does any of this link at all with our performance audit? Can anything transfer over that we think they should add into this description?
From a facilities perspective, I don't think there was anything that I can recall off the top of my head. I did have some questions, even because this is, I don't believe we had this at our board meeting. If we did, I missed it, so I'll ask the questions. Or at our committee meeting, I apologize. There's one place, I believe in general information, it says we have 17 active buildings. And I'm not sure if that should say 17 active campuses.
It says active school buildings.
Active school buildings, that should probably say school campuses, just to get the most accurate bid. And then I couldn't tell when I was reading through, it says that it would look for environmental concerns like air quality, asbestos, that type of thing, but I couldn't tell if that was the third party using our Lee County Schools previous testing or if they were doing their own testing. And then I also couldn't tell what category of priority that would fall into if there were issues there, if there were 1 through 5. And so I don't know if that can be answered in this meeting or not, but those were some things that popped out at me.
They're moving this way, so.
I was about to say, I think Chris is being lured.
Thank you for your question. So in regards to what environmental testing would be done and the things like that, if there was something to do with abatement and we had just done some abatement, certainly they would use that information. We've also just gone through a program called Clean Water for Carolina Kids, where we've had to give samples of soil testing, but also, lead in water, that sort of thing. And so all of those results would be made available to them. But in terms of if they found issues with that, what priority it would go in, obviously if it's a life safety issue, which would be it impacts the health or safety of a student, then that would become one of those top priorities for us. They tend to use the words life safety in this realm, so it just makes it a little bit more complicated.
And they would take what we have that we do testing every 6 months, that we have somebody comes and inspects our asbestos in our schools. And they probably would give us a plan of how the best way to get it all out of our schools and give us an estimated cost so we can plan that in our CIP or capital for every school. So they would take a lot of our data that we have here in the school system that I have at our office and at all the schools, and do an assessment of all the schools to see, you need a roof in 5 years at this school, you need new flooring, you need the ADA compliance. So they're going to help us, give us a timeline of what we need to do in the next 20 years at all our schools to keep them updated.
Schools and supplemental buildings, so like central office and child nutrition and.
Correct.
Yep.
All of
Maintenance garage, all, okay.
Everything.
Yep.
Anything we take care of.
And I do want to make this point, but we've never had this done, so I have no idea what the estimated cost may be. We may come back and the board say, we're not going this route. But I do think as we begin to plan things like a CIP, having these folks come in and say, here's our recommendations over the next 20 years, certainly makes life easier when we go to the county commissioners with a request and we have the facts to back that up.
Motion to approve the Lee County Board of I move that the Lee County Board of Education approve the RFQ for facility condition assessment.
Motion and a second. Did I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. It is approved. And personnel report.
Mr. Chair, I move that the Lee County Board of Education approve the personnel report as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. We will skip over because we did closed session business in one, and so.
So, sir, I would make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.